Hi, my name's Keith Henderson. I'm President and CEO of Latin Metals, which is a prospect generator operating in South America. Happy to be here today. I'm a geologist by training, and we focus on very, very high quality assets with very high potential and on getting the best possible partners we can to bring the value out of those projects and to benefit the shareholders.
Keith, good to meet you. We've not met or spoken before, so
no,
I think, yep, absolutely. We love a news story. We like prospect generators as well. You mentioned you're a geologist. Can you give us a little bit more background? Where have you been? What have you done?
Well, like a lot of geologists, I've traveled a lot. I've been through a lot of countries in Africa. I've also worked through some of the European countries and in North America and South America as well, with a little bit of Australia thrown in. So it's just been a really significant traveling experience for me. You can tell from my Northern Ireland grey hair that we've been on the go here for more than 30 years doing this. And for the first 15 years of that, I was really, I don't want to say just a geologist, but that's exactly what I was doing. Like I was traveling to places, working in the field, and working for people and trying to find good assets. And then at some point, I ended up back moving to Vancouver. And I looked out the window and thought, there's a lot you can do here, and there's financial backing for good ideas. And so I decided to step out of the geological role and start founding basically junior issuers listed on the Toronto Exchange, and we've been doing that ever since.
Right. Okay. And in the geology bit, what were you hunting down? Were you copper, gold? What were you after?
Oh, I never really claimed to be an expert in anything. I've done a lot of gold.
Right.
I've done a lot of copper. I've also done a lot of zinc.
Right.
I've been in the iron ore business. I've been in the metallurgical coal business. So
Right.
I've done a little bit of everything, even a little bit of uranium. But all of those things I've done for multiple years. So I've had a lot of exposure, but I'm not one of those geologists who woke up one day and decided to be a gold guy and just stayed there my whole life. It's just a little bit of everything.
Just love the rocks.
Yeah.
Love the rocks. Right, we're going to talk today about kind of prospect generation and specifically, how you've assembled the package and the portfolio. You've decided to focus on Argentina and Peru. Yeah. Why, and how did you pick those assets up?
The company was formed through an RTO that already had some Argentina assets in it, and I'd been involved with a predecessor company as well. I'm in Argentina and Peru because I'm there because I've been there, and I've been there for a while, and after a while you get really comfortable working in a country. You know people, you know where to turn to if you need help. You start to build relationships with the government, and you know that you can work with the communities. When I think about going to places like Brazil, I'm kind of filled with dread because I don't know anybody there, and I'm like, how would I even start that? So I'm very focused on Peru and Argentina. I would like to get into Chile as well. Like, it's not that we don't want to expand, but these are our core areas.
Right. Okay. And just we'll cover all bases for people to need to invest in mining, and need to those countries. Argentina, Peru have political change over the past 2, 3, 4 years. It made a dramatic change the ability to do business in country. In terms of the reality on the ground, are you delays at a federal level or provincial level? I mean, how does it work? State level as well?
Well, speaking to Argentina in particular, where the changes happened in the last couple of years, it's provincial. So there's a federal mining law, but the provinces have a great deal of control over the mineral rights. So you're always dealing with the provinces, which means you have to kind of pick and choose your provinces.
Yeah.
So there's 3 or 4 provinces that are great places to go mining, and the Fraser Institute, as one of those kind of famous surveys, typically says these are great places to be, and the others really aren't. So we don't.
Don't we know it from Northern Ireland?
Yeah.
Right. That's an in joke, folks. Right. So with regards to, let's get into the kind of portfolio problem. Obviously, it looks like you've got a lot of assets, a lot of optionality in terms of that. But you explain the prospect generator model for people as well, just so we understand how you're financing yourselves and your activities.
Prospect generator is the best value model for an investor. We don't do, well, what a company normally does is get a couple of projects, go and finance. Yeah. Typically, often lifestyle companies, people who are really having a good time. They've got a job for life. The companies keep going forever. They never really find anything. They keep raising money. They keep diluting shareholders. And if that's what you're interested in, there's nothing for you here. We're doing exactly the opposite. So we run the company on very little money, typically $2 to $3 million per year. we try our very best not to raise money and not to dilute the shareholders, and we take asset level dilution instead of shareholder dilution. So we're always looking for a partner. We give them an option to earn a majority position in the project, and we always maintain a minority position. So we've always got exposure to a discovery. Prospect generators, because they're not spending a ton of money, have a lot more projects, or have the ability to have a lot more projects. So if you're doing it properly, you've got a lot of projects and a lot of partners, and therefore a lot more shots on goal as well.
But what do the partners bring in terms of the finances to be able to, because obviously management fees, I suspect if you are asked to do the drilling and
we don't operate.
You don't operate at all?
Well, we would if we had to. If we found a partner who really wanted to do it and couldn't operate, that's fine, yeah. But we prefer not to. It's much better for our people to be spending their time generating new opportunities for us, and that's better for everybody. So we like partners to come in and just work.
So you're staking, doing some base surface work. Are you doing any drilling at all yourselves?
Never.
Never, okay.
That's the rule.
That's the rule. Okay, so you really keep it.
Because that's where the money disappears.
Tight. It is. It does quite quickly. Okay, so talk about your process there in terms of identifying assets or prospective assets which may be attractive to other companies.
Yeah, and isn't that the skill? So it's we've had partners like Yamana, Newmont, Barrick, AngloGold Ashanti. You know what they're looking for. Like if you pick up the phone and ask these companies what they want, 5 million ounce deposit, please, 4.5 grams gold, and like how many of those are lying around. So your projects have to demonstrably show that you've got that kind of potential. And we have a geologist, not just me, but we have like an actual working geologist who understands these things, and his name is Eduardo Leon, and he's based out of Lima but works between Lima and Argentina. And he's got unique skills in identifying ideas that have that kind of big picture potential. So just to pick a random example, we've managed to stake and control about 500,000 hectares of ground in northwest Argentina, which is prospective for sediment-hosted gold, similar to Zambia and Cooper-Schiefer. About 20% of the world's gold is produced from these kinds of deposits, and even though South America over the last 30 or 40 years has produced almost exclusively from porphyries, so they are drying up a bit harder to find, a bit deeper, and so people are starting to get that interest. So our geologist wakes up one day goes, this is really prospective for this. And if you ask geologists in South America, are there any sediment-hosted gold or copper deposits in South America? They go, oh, no. No one's really looked, and there are, and we've staked all this ground. We've been on the ground. We've found exactly what we're looking for. We've now got this huge project, and it's exactly the kind of project that will attract a major mining company to come in and take it over. Because once you hold the property, the opportunity is yours, and people have to come to you.
Right. We'll get into that in a second. I just want to kind of sort of logically, kind of or rather linear thinking way, go through the process, because once he has identified something which may be of interest, you've got to package it up and wrap it in a boat, and then you've got to sign an agreement. So give me a sort of typical structure of an agreement that you would go into with another party.
Typically, we give a party a right for 70 to 75% over some period of time. In the past, a lot of companies would have signed up to an expenditure commitment as part of that earn-in, but we don't. We've learned some pretty interesting lessons over the last few years, which is essentially major mining companies can spend an awful lot of money doing very little work, because there's head offices and there's everything else that they have to fund. And so we actually completely stopped with that, and we now just ask people to drill meters, because that's really what our shareholders care about, drill meters, and it's how you find deposits, funny enough. So we say you can spend as much money as you like drilling X meters.
That's interesting.
And,
not heard that before.
And it's really great. So we've got a porphyry project in San Juan province in Argentina, which we've optioned out to a company based here in London called Mexico, who are producing in the Zambian copper belt, and they have money, and they're really technically proficient, and they know what they're doing. So they're doing a fantastic job, but their earn-in is big, Like it's 65,000 meters of drilling over, I can't remember, I think it's 5 or 6 years. And all of these technical studies up to and including a feasibility study. And while we are doing nothing except watching, and they're doing fantastic work. But those are serious earnings. Like that's not an average earning.
No, that's extraordinary. I've spoken to a lot of prospect generators, and not one of them's come up with just because costs can be allocated anywhere, as you say.
Yeah.
It's like, show me the meters, and I'm going to give you a timeline in which to do that. It's real simple.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, so that's one of the projects that you've got out with a company at the moment, and you've got a few more.
Yeah, we've got one drilling at the moment, or just finished drilling, in Santa Cruz province. That went to a less major company, but a company I was very comfortable with, who had a really excellent technical team and were well financed. So we're just basically waiting for results on that. But it's in that an area called the Deseado Massif, which is it's produced a lot of mines, a lot of discoveries over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, we love this project. We're really excited to see the results, which are coming at us really slowly right now, but hopefully soon.
Yeah.
We've got another project in Argentina called Organullo, which we did have with Anglo Gold Ashanti, who they did great work. They came up with a wonderful model based on some work that they'd done in Colombia. Their target was a high sulfidation gold deposit. What does that mean? High grade, big ounces, the usual 5 million ounce major company target. And they did work. They got the thing permitted over the course of 3 years, and we're just about to start drilling, and they decided they were leaving the project.
Yeah.
And that is honestly the downside of the major companies, is they are prone to a random change of direction.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that, because it doesn't mean there's no value there. It just means that at that time, within a large portfolio of other assets where they've done the same thing, this one doesn't meet certain criteria at that moment in time, right? But do you get to keep the data?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about.
That was the best thing that ever happened to us, because they came into this deal many years ago when the gold price was terrible, before that this quality target had been identified, before it was permitted.
Yeah.
Now that they leave, the thing's in a much better situation. The gold price has gone to close to 5,000 from wherever it was when they started, 1,200 or something. So, the deal that they had with us was looking a little bit cheap in today's environment.
Yeah.
So it's great that they're gone.
Yeah.
I've got a lineup of companies looking at this thing, and for me, it's just a matter of picking the best company to execute on it.
Right.
The company that will behave the best with the communities, the company that will just get everything right. And that's actually more important than the actual commercial terms. Like, they must be reasonable terms, but you have to pick the right partner.
So, one, they've got money. Two, they know how to operate in country, presumably, because the social license obviously aspect is huge. And three, I guess, have the intent to actually get going with it for sure. Okay, understand. You mentioned a few other names, Barrick and Newmont, etc. Have you been through the same process with them, where they at that time said, in context of the whole portfolio, this one isn't for us for now, where you've got to keep the data? Have you been repackaging those as well, given the kind of new environment?
The demand for projects has increased very substantially in the last year. So sentiment in exploration is really important, and it affects everybody, and it affects the big companies just as the little ones. So the sentiment is Argentina is now a great place to explore.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case 2 or 3 years ago. So now that is the case, everybody turns up. So for us to be sitting there with projects that we already had, that were already mature and ready to go, some of them already permitted for drilling, it just put us in such a fantastic position. And we're actually in the same position in Peru. We've got projects there that are ready to go, and we're talking to a lot of companies right now, trying to get deals done. So my objective this year, we currently have $80 million in investment under these kind of option agreements. So basically $80 million of investment under contract. Yeah. By the end of the year, I think that number is going to be 160 to 180 million.
Right.
And I think at that point, all of our current projects will be optioned out. Okay. And of course, we're bringing in more projects to kind of fill that pipeline.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be a pretty transformational year in terms of the volumes of investment coming in. And nothing changes with us. Like, we're still spending $2 to $3 million a year. We don't need to raise money in 26. We don't need to raise money in 27. And we might not need to raise money in 28. So it really is truly a story where if you want to own it, you got to go buy it.
And you're hanging on to an NSR on each of these as well, are you?
Yeah, ultimately you become, like, we initially hang on to a minority position, but depending on the project, if all of these projects are anything like what the companies that are working on them think they're going to be, we revert to an NSR, we become organically a royalty company, and we move from there.
Right, okay, so that's what people need to understand. Ultimately, that's where you end up, but between now and then, there's companies can option in, or earn in, I should say, for 60, 70, 75, 80%, and ultimately, I guess, 100%, but they got to pay. Actually, the first stage is spend some money. The kind of buyout of the last 20% or whatever, that would be a kind of cash sum to you, presumably, at the point that they feel
And we build a lot of those things in. Like, so if we give somebody a 70 or 75% initial interest, I'll often give them a 5% top up, right? But that's a cash related thing. So they have a requirement in their initial earn-in to give me a resource estimate.
Got it.
And then they can buy 5% at X dollars per ounce of gold equivalent, blah, blah, blah. So you get a big cash injection.
So you look to resource estimate, not some sort of FID or some other kind of economic study.
Ounces in the ground. It's just
Ounces
easy.
in the ground.
Multiply it by a large number of dollars and everybody's happy.
And then rely on the NSR to kind of get things going. Because ultimately, if this does move towards a sort of a organic growth royalty type company, there's real value in that. I mean, sizable value in that in terms of these roll-ups that are going on at the moment for you. But that's a longer term play.
Yeah, like
It
this,
doesn't go away though.
We're right at the cusp of having lots and lots and lots of catalysts, and like a lot of prospect generators in our position, we're like hugely undervalued.
Yeah.
But the first time that one of these projects works, things are going to change very rapidly for us.
Right.
And having so many projects working and going at the same time, you just so much increase your chances of that actually happening.
Tell me this. So again, some of the companies I speak to, project generators anyway, they like to do what you're doing in different ways, but they also like to say, well, we're also explorers at heart, so we want to keep one asset for ourselves and go for it. You're saying actually drilling's expensive, it's dilutive to raise money for that drilling. There's not much upside there because the chances of success are what they are. Okay.
So I think we're completely unique in that position because you're exactly right. Every single prospect generator at some point in their life, it's actually a lack of patience, and sometimes I guess a lack of patience on the part of the investors as well. But eventually they all go, we should just drill one of our own projects.
Yeah.
And then they call themselves a hybrid prospect generator, which I call not a prospect generator. Because once you're drilling and once you go down that road, you're raising money and you're spending money, and it's just not the model.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I like that. Good. So in terms of this year, obviously a lot coming through. You talked about maybe that change in profile in terms of meters to be drilled with whatever spend. In terms of jurisdiction, I know you know Argentina, you know Peru. In terms of the rest of South America, anything else looking attractive to you?
Chile
Yeah.
was looking a little awkward for the last couple of years, but it looks like it's getting back on track.
Yeah,
So we're always looking there, and eventually we'll find the right project there. Equally important where we're not looking, never going to go to Ecuador. It's just a personal opinion, and I'm never going to change my mind, so I'm stubborn that way. I like Bolivia these days, but I'm actually ended up on the board of another company, so for us to go there at this moment would be a little awkward, but you never know, things could change. But yeah, I think Argentina and Peru offer us a huge amount of opportunity, particularly Argentina in these very active years for the country, and if we can add a bit of Chile, get a little bit of growth.
Okay, good to meet you. Interesting, very interesting. Actually, slight twist on that whole prospect generator component, but I like the logic. Appreciate that. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.